Welcome to my channel. This is an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so, and don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified of future videos. Please feel free to share my videos on your social media, and I hope you enjoy the video which follows.
Hello everybody, and welcome to my mid-July garden update, I guess we'll have to call this one. And of course why I'm standing here is to show that off. This is, I think it's called a Floribunda rose. It's the one that's growing wild all over Campobello and now all over my property. I started this one from a seed. I'm not certain how many years ago, but more than 10 years ago probably. And it is maybe 10 feet tall and 15 to 20 feet wide in some places, and I have it in other places on my property because now it produces these tiny little rose hips in the fall, and the birds love them, and of course they drop them everywhere under trees. There are places on Campobello where there are spruce trees that are 60 feet tall, and this has almost reached the top of it. It's very fragrant. I just love the thing. It doesn't last very long. It's only a single bloomer. It blooms once this time of year, and that's it for the year. But no maintenance required, at least if you've got an open area that you don't care what happens to. So, well, let's have a look around at some of the other things in the garden, some successes and some failures.
Well, the garlic is still looking good. Starting to get little browner tips on the end of some of the leaves, and the hardneck has formed scapes, these things, where the little bulbils would grow, and you could, over a number of years, produce more garlic with them, but they also take energy away from the garlic bulb that's developing. It's just the hardneck varieties that have the scapes. The softneck varieties, at least my understanding of it, somebody can correct me if they know something different, don't seem to produce them. And they are quite usable. You can chop them up and use them in stir fries or flavoring anything that you want a garlic flavor in. They're quite strong. You wouldn't want to put a lot of it in anything. I may use some of them, but basically just want to get rid of them, I guess. Next to the garlic is a 16-foot long raised bed, a couple of feet wide, I guess, something like that anyway. A row of parsnips and a row of carrots, which seem to be doing very well. I've managed to keep them watered, which has been a help, I guess, but excellent germination in both of them. Actually, I've pulled out so many parsnips, I could have planted 3 times as many. I'll try pulling a carrot. I've had luck pulling a couple lately that had at least a small carrot on them. I'll pull one down, it won't have anything on it, right? That's how it goes. They've got baby carrots on them now. I wouldn't pull a lot of them. I want them to get much longer. That long root sort of indicates some of the size that it will be when it's fully grown anyway. And it's a multicolored package. Yellow, white, and orange, I think. And this one, of course, is orange. All of my winter squash plants and the cucumber plants that I've planted outside of the hoop house anyway are not doing very well. Scrawny little things like that should be many times larger than that. I'm not certain which variety it is. I have 3 varieties of winter squash growing. I have just started, well, this is Tuesday. Sunday I watered them with Miracle Grow liquid water-soluble fertilizer for vegetables. I just don't think that they were going to do anything if I didn't do something for them, so once a week I will give them the Miracle Grow for about 3 weeks, and hopefully that will get them started growing. The leaves just don't seem to be getting any bigger. All the new leaves are the same size as the ones before, and they should be getting larger, larger, larger all the time. I'll show you one other variety or so before I close this down. Hopefully you can make out a few blossoms there on the potatoes. They're starting to bloom. Sort of a light mauve colored blossom. The plants are incredible. I'm just hoping there's something down under the soil that compares with what's up topside here. They've got to be, well, not counting the level of the pot. They're in pot, which raises them up, but they've got to be close to 3 foot tall without the pot. I'm not going to harvest any until they start to die back. They're supposed to be an early variety, but I want them to grow as large as they will grow, so I will harvest them when it looks like the vines are starting to die. This is the Italian heirloom summer squash, a type of zucchini, I believe, Cocosella, and it is looking better than my winter squash are, so that's something to be encouraged about, I guess. I also gave it Miracle Whip. I have 2 of them. The third one that was in this bed, raccoons or maybe even porcupines, something dug it up. They've dug up several of my plants that I had some seedlings to replace with, and others I didn't have any, so I've got empty spots. But what they were looking for, I don't know. But I think it was all over with, and I go out again, there'd be another one dug up. The variety of onions that I grew are just called Spanish. I presume there's probably a dozen kinds of onions that grow in Spain. But here, when you buy an onion in the store and it's called Spanish, it means it's a large, sweet onion. And they are starting to get to a good size, at least quite a few of them are. But also, like you see that one, it has fallen over, which I guess indicates it's not going to grow any larger. There aren't a lot of them that have done that yet, so perhaps some of the other ones will carry on and get bigger. But I'm pleased that they at least reached that size. Excuse the weeds. That hopefully is a job for this evening when the sun goes down a bit further and things cool off. But what I wanted to show you is that I'm getting some decent height on my tomato plants, and I have a number of plants that have produced green tomatoes, so there's hopes for some ripe ones later on. I'll show you a close-up of 1 or 2 of them. Hopefully you're seeing a green tomato there. That's Wenzel, supposed to be a beefsteak type tomato related to Brandywine, a pink version of Brandywine. It was the first one to bloom, first tomato plant to bloom. Now it has 2 blooming trusses, and that's the largest. That's only 1.5 inches, 2 inches across, but that's the largest tomato on that plant anyway. That's a small truss of coal, and all of those plants are doing good. I have 5 or 6 plants in here, and they're really setting fruit like crazy. I wouldn't be surprised, because they're smaller than the Wenzel, they'll probably catch up and pass the Wenzel, but that's got 4, no, it's got 5 on it now, and there's some more blossoms out there that I'll twinkle around there a bit. They're pretty much the color of the soil, but I just transplanted beets in here this morning. This is where my lettuce and spinach was, and that package of mesclun, it had all started to bolt and flower. So I pulled it out and prepared this bed. I did the same preparation that I always do for beets. Wood ash out of the stove in the cabin, and I put 2 5-gallon pails of my own composted sheep manure in. And I have planted these Southpaw Davy style. So Davy, I'll blame you if it all goes thumbs down. Just joking. Whatever happens is entirely my fault. Davy plants his in clumps. And I had 1 or 2 seeds in each one of the little cells that I was growing them in. And beets, a single beet seed can produce multiple heads sometimes. So I just put them in clumps and watered them in, and they're looking kind of flat now because I hit them with water not too long ago. It is incredibly hot in here. It wasn't when I was doing the work, but it's about almost 24, 25 degrees outside, but it's, I would say, in the high 30s in here right now. At the far end you can't see them, but I also put 4 of my rutabagas, turnips, or Swedes, whatever you want to call them. I have a number of seedlings ready, but they're not ready to go in the garden. As soon as my peas are harvested, that's where they're going. And I'm going to put a few up at the community garden as well, but probably too hot in here for them. But I put 4 just to see what would happen. These are all 3 of the varieties of cucumbers. 2 of one variety and 1 each of the other 2 varieties. All the varieties that I'm growing are what they call parthenocarpic. They only produce female blossoms and don't need to be pollinated to produce a cucumber. And as you can probably see, hopefully it's in the shot, there's 1 blossom there this morning. There are a number of them that are, well, I would say will bloom in the next couple of days. So they're doing really well in here in the heat. I guess I should have planted them all in here. I'll give you a look, if I can remember to, what they look like outside. That is the species foxglove, the one that the heart medication digoxin is made from. Just curious to see what it's like. It does have a foxglove type blossom, I guess, but it's not all that showy. I'll let it continue to bloom. Behind that you can probably see some of the big umbels of the angelica. Blossom isn't much, but it's all seeds there now. But I've got to remember to cut those off before it throws its seeds all over here. And you don't know if you can see below there or not. There it is. Bloody Dock was probably as tall as the angelica until yesterday when I took the pruning shears and cut all the blossoms off of that thing. It's pretty. I don't mind having it growing in here, but I don't want a greenhouse full of it. Probably isn't anything there to put that in perspective, but that is one. And there is Angel. We just got photobombed by Angel. That is one of the varieties of parthenocarpic cucumbers that I planted in this cage where I grew corn with the hopes of trailing it up the wire cage. May happen yet, but as you can see, compared to what's happening in the greenhouse, these things are pretty much standing still. I did also give them Miracle Grow, and I will be doing that for a couple of more weeks. A week apart, a watering of Miracle Grow should get them growing, I hope. This part off here at the hoop house and garden, that's just another one of the winter squash, and they're all doing the same, nothing but small leaves. But as I said, it's had a feeding of Miracle Grow, and we'll get 2 more feedings, so hopefully it will expand and grow larger and actually produce a squash would be good too. I'm going up to the community garden shortly to do some work up there, so I'll show you what's happening in my plot at the community garden before I close this video down. Well, starting with my plot again, this is another Wenzel tomato. It's a bit behind the one in the greenhouse, hoop house, but that little blossom off there, and it does have a little tomato started. The 2 cucumbers are looking kind of yellow. I just gave this bed a watering with Miracle Grow as well. And this is the sunflower that's coming up through the potatoes here. I planted it, but it's coming up past the potatoes. Potatoes are not as tall, and I don't think as dark or green as they are home, but they're starting to bloom. My scarecrow survived, if you can see my scarecrow. And the peas, even with the little fences that I put up, the peas have outgrown those too, but another 10 days to 2 weeks and they'll be harvested and removed. In below the peas there, they show, but there's a row of beets. I think maybe because they've been shaded out by the peas, they're not really doing all that well, but hopefully once the peas come out they will develop. On this side, I just removed all of the lettuce and I think rocket. I'm not sure what the other plant was, but it didn't act like a lettuce to me, and I've never grown rocket before, but someone commented on one of my previous videos it looked like rocket. I took that into the kitchen here at the nursing home and they're going to use it. I've told them to feel free to take anything. They had taken a little bit of lettuce, but I took it all into them, to hopefully enough for salad this evening or something. And I've told them also to come pick these peas when they start filling out. Certainly won't be enough peas there for a meal for all of the residents, but maybe some of the residents would enjoy shelling out and eating raw peas. I do. It's my favorite way of eating the peas. And if you can see or not, I've planted 6 rutabagas, or turnips, or Swedes. I call them turnips here, in that plot. And once the peas come out, I'll probably put 3 or 4 more in. Now let's take a look at some of the other beds here. This bed is just behind mine, next door to me, in other words. Swiss chard, beets, and potatoes, and they are all looking fantastic. Those beets look 10 times better than my scrawny little things, and I think I remember they were growing Detroit red. Wow, they should have a good harvest. And the Swiss chard, it looks like it's ready now, and whatever variety of potatoes they're growing are also in bloom, but a very nice looking plot. This plot is a lady who told me that she had never gardened before, and it's still looking very good. She has a squash plant there, and I'm not sure if that's winter squash or summer squash. I see some beans, peas, onions, a tomato plant, and over on the far left are cucumber plants. It's looking great. This plot is brassicas and potatoes. I think I checked the tags earlier, and broccoli and Brussels sprouts for sure, and I'm not certain if there was cauliflower there or not, but they're great healthy plants, and so far no cabbage moth damage, and a few potatoes on the right end, all looking very healthy. I met this gardener a few days ago. I see potatoes coming up, and lettuce, some spinach, probably some summer squash, a strawberry plant, and a number of tomato plants that are sort of staying short and stocky and producing lots of tomatoes. So I'm wondering if it might be one of the miniature varieties. I don't see a tag, something like Tiny Tim or something like that. They are very prolific, but the plants are stocky and don't get all that tall. And of course I could be wrong, but it is producing a lot of tomatoes anyway. This plot is all potatoes, and I was told that some of the staff here at the nursing home are growing it for use in the kitchen to have new potatoes to serve. Blossoms on these are white, so they're a different variety than what I'm growing, but I don't know what variety they might be. I seem to always have to show this patch of herbs, and once again this is being grown for the nursing home as well. Everything's doing very well. If you can see the lavender that's in bloom, different variety than the lavender that I have because it has white blossoms, and mine have a mauve purplish blossom, but the plant looks to be doing well anyway. And off in the field here, I presume being grown by the nursing home, is 2 rows of corn. It wasn't as high as your eye on the 4th of July, but it's doing very well. And if it's a short season variety, they still have lots of opportunity to get some corn out of it. I think someone told me that this bed is all pumpkins. In the middle there I can see at least 2 plants that have bloomed already. It'd be interesting to see how large the pumpkins get or what variety they might be. A lot of plants in that bed of pumpkins anyway. This is the same straw bale garden that I always show. Just wanting to show progress on one particular one rather than filming them all, I guess. And those are the yellow pear tomatoes, lots of blossoms. I won't zoom in on it, but there are a few of the little green tomatoes have started, and those things usually develop quite fast. In the center, if you can see them in that shot, is some carrots. They're doing well, and up at the other end are pepper plants that have small peppers on them already. We'll close this off. I'll show you our garden shed, which arrived a couple of weeks ago. I don't think I've shown it before. A good size shed. I'm not sure exactly what the dimensions are, but they told me that there's also been a greenhouse ordered, and it's roughly the same size as the shed, and the greenhouse is 8 feet wide and 16 feet long, and it will go down below the shed in the same area here. So, a very nice looking shed anyway. Well, that will conclude this little video. Thank you very much for watching.